Hello my fireflies and welcome back to the Cyan Firefly. It's me Lyiat and I am here with a TLDR on Resident Evil 6, otherwise known as Biohazard in Japan. Let me start this video out by apologizing to all of you. I am well aware that there was no content last week, and that's mainly because I was very ill. I had the kind of illness that makes it very hard to talk. I had a chest cold and a really nasty sore throat, and any video I could have produced would have been of very poor quality. And I just don't like doing videos like that. I don't like making money off of videos that I, just clearly blew off. So there you go. That's the reason. If you don't like it, sorry. Anyway, moving right along, Resident Evil 6 is of course the latest title in the Resident Evil series, and was produced by Capcom. Now, I am very sure I don't need to tell you guys who Capcom is. They are one of the most well-known companies out there, and they have been producing the Resident Evil series for quite a while, as well as a number of other things, but we won't get into that. So, some of you might be thinking, hey, Lyiat, what are you doing? Resident Evil 6 came out a long time ago. It came out last year in October. Well, yes, that is true. However, it came out on consoles back in October. In fact, it just recently came out on PCs March 22nd. Specifically, that was the Steam release for North America. I believe it came out in Australia 21st, something like that. Either way, we have just finally gotten our hands on this game as PC people, so I'm taking a look at it now as opposed to earlier because I don't buy console games. Anyway, so Resident Evil 6, as I said, is the most recent game in the series. It takes place, of course, after Resident Evil 5, Resident Evil 4, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. So yes, this isn't after the co-op adventure of Chris Redfield and Sheva, as well as Leon's adventures with the Las Plagas. So this game is broken into 4 different campaigns. You have Leon's campaign, you have Chris's campaign, you have Jake's campaign, he's a new character, and you have Ada Wong. Now, Leon's campaign is done jointly with Helena. This is actually entirely like the previous game, Resident Evil 5, where you have a companion in every single campaign except for Ada's, but we will get to that later. So you start off with Leon's campaign, you have the basic setup. Something weird has happened, there is an infection, and this time it actually takes place in America. There is a bioterrorism attack, and push comes to shove, you wind up having to shoot an infected president in the face. Yes, so things are a little diabolical here. Chris Redfield's storyline, on the other hand, focuses more on what he's been doing since he parted ways with Sheva. He is now, of course, a captain in the BSAA. He has, of course, been with the BSAA since, I'd say at least the 5th game. It's been a little while since I've touched any of the other titles. But he is with a new member of the BSAA called Piers. He is a character you've never been introduced to before, likewise with Helena. And this time they are facing these things called the Javo, which are this new group of zombies that are the result of a new virus known as the C virus, a product of Neo Umbrella, which is the brand new bioterrorism group out there. Then of course you have Jake's, which is very spoiler heavy, so I don't want to say too much, but you do explore Jake's campaign and back history along with Sherry from Resident Evil 2. 2? Might be 3. I don't remember. But yes, Sherry does make a return in this game, and it's pretty fun. And finally, you have Ada Wong, a very interesting character to say the least, a character that a lot of speculation is based around, something that a lot of people have been questioning, but Ada's entire campaign is mostly a behind-the-scenes kind of deal. You get to see exactly what she was doing throughout the campaign because she appears in everybody else's storylines, and you get to see all the cool stuff going on with her, and it's pretty interesting. So very nice multi-perspective approach to the storyline, because everything in the game happens at the same time. All the characters run into each other, and they all have sequences dealing with each other. And as far as the storyline goes, I really do like it. Hold on, I need to... yeah, like I said, I'm still recovering from a cold, I apologize. Anyway, so all the characters run into each other, they interact with each other, and their storylines actually have direct effects on one another. While you don't have too many choices, there's no choices that carry over from one campaign to another, you do get to see the interference that each character has on one another, and it's... the way that they do it is really cool. I'm actually fairly impressed with the mixing multi-perspective campaign that they have running here. Okay, moving on to the gameplay. Now, this game has actually... this game has completely abandoned the survival horror series that Resident Evil really started off as. Capcom claims that it is now dramatic horror. Honestly, I think they've abandoned horror entirely, and they definitely completely abandoned survival. This game is all dramatic, big, blockbuster kind of stuff with crazy stunts and all sorts of really cool visual effects, but I don't think that's a good turn in the series. But that said, let's look at what's here. Now, the gameplay, of course, like I said, has changed completely. It's even changed from 5 and 4. So the shooting system kind of remains the same, except for now you can move, which is kind of interesting. That kind of changes how things work now. Like before, if you pulled out your knife or something, you were stuck there. You'd have to aim and shoot. That's all you could do. Now you can actually move around and readjust your position while you're aiming your gun, which is pretty interesting. And every single character does play significantly differently this time around, except for Leon and Chris, though Leon tends to be a little bit faster and Chris has a bit more brute force. However, they do have very different weapons for their campaigns. So all the characters can kind of do different things, and it also has a much heavier melee focus. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, the knife plays a much larger significant role in fighting. It's actually a very effective weapon, and you can now move and dodge while carrying it. So that kind of changes your tactics around this, you know, when you're playing this time around. Not to mention, like I said before, you can actually dodge. You can do all these dive rolls and all sorts of fun things. You can counter enemies when they go to attack you. So if you press the attack button at the right time when a zombie is coming after you, you can duck under it and then like punch it in the face, which is pretty cool. Not to mention, Jake is completely different. He plays different from every single other character in the game. He's actually capable of fighting with his fists, and he does a lot of the exploring. You know how Sheva in the previous game was, you know, the one who would jump up to areas and stuff like that, and she would go around corners and do stuff up there? Jake's the one who does that in this, because he's extremely athletic. He can jump up to high places, and he can do flips off of bars and stuff like that. Well, Sherry's usually the one that stays hiding around. And not to mention, Jake has a bunch of different weapons that a lot of other characters do not have access to, other than his basic pistol, which is the 909 that he shares with Chris Redfield. Anyway, so Jake has a very different combat feel to him. You know, punching, kicking. He can also do this dash attack where he runs across a room and does a palm heel to somebody and sends them flying across the room. Sherry has a electric baton and a 3-round burst handgun. So every character just has significant differences to them. So playing through each campaign is not like the same experience over and over again. Not to mention, you have very different enemies with different capabilities. Every single time I played a new campaign, I would run into new enemies, and it spiced up the combat quite a bit. The combat is actually great. I do love how the combat is in this game. It's extremely fun. The controls are weird, though. Let me go and say that. The controls are actually kind of hard to wrap your head around, to be honest. You kind of have to press a billion buttons at the same time, unless you're using a controller. With the controller, it's a little bit easier. In fact, I'd have to say it's significantly easier, which kind of bothers me. I personally rebound a lot of my dodge keys to the macro keys on my mouse, simply because it was too annoying to press all the buttons at once that you'd have to do to dodge. So, and not to mention, it was also bound to like Z, X, C, and I don't know. Either way, so while it is a very fun system, it can be very, very irritating to approach. I suppose that's what I want to say. If you don't have a way to get used to the keyboard controls and you're trying to play it like the previous games, you will get overwhelmed. I do know throughout the entire first campaign, I was like, oh man, this game sucks. I have no idea what's going on here. The zombies are way too fast. I can't move quickly enough, and then I realized how the dodging worked and how ingenious it actually was. I've done things where I've slid under enemies, kicked their knees out from behind them, pulled out a pistol, and shot them in the back of the head. It feels really cool. It feels really solid, as long as you know how to do it. So it does have a very high skill ceiling, I suppose. I guess the final character I want to talk about who is exceedingly different is Piers, who is very sniper focused early on in the game, but something happens to him at the very end of the game that has happened to no other character you have played as in any Resident Evil game before, and you get to do some things with him that you've never gotten to do, and it's really, really cool, but I won't talk about that too much. Let's just say it's a very interesting turning point in the story. Other gameplay modes have returned, including the Hit Mercenaries mode that has been present in the previous 2 games. A lot of people like the Mercenaries modes, from what I understand, and the Steam edition of the game comes with an exclusive Left 4 Dead DLC, which is completely free. You do not have to pay for it, so don't worry about that. But you get to play as the characters from Left 4 Dead 2, and you get to fight a couple of zombies from Left 4 Dead 2, including the Tank and the Witch, which I believe are just kind of reskin characters from Resident Evil 6, but otherwise, it's actually kind of neat. Not to mention you get all the music, like the Midnight Riders music, which is really awesome. I had a fanboy moment when it came to those. And Resident Evil 6 adds a new mode called the Agent Hunt mode for free. Agent Hunt mode is kind of like Versus for Left 4 Dead. You actually get to hop into somebody's game as long as they're playing online, and you get to take control of a zombie in their world, and you get to fight them with it. And it's pretty cool. You get to wander around as a zombie, gnaw on their face, and if you're really good, you can take somebody down and give them a bad day. But keep in mind that this is not going to be something in everybody's campaign. You can play the game offline. Take note, EA. But yes, you can play the game offline, and you can have fun with it. You can have a lot of fun with it by yourself. But yeah, you don't need to have all these online capable things that would normally be forced to you if you were playing games by other companies. But moving along, so like I said, you do not need to have Agent Hunt mode on when you're playing single player, but if you do, people can hop in and out, and they can provide a very interesting, unique challenge, especially if they're very good at their job. So do keep that in mind if you turn Agent Hunt mode on. Moving right along, they have completely abandoned the currencies systems from the previous 2 games. You are no longer buying weapons. You find them normally. You do not upgrade them. You do not do anything like that, which I am very disappointed in. I think that is something that was really great from the past 2 games. It's something I would have really liked to see returned. However, they have kind of let me down in that department. What they have done instead is put something in called skill points. You actually find these chess pieces littered all across the stages, which are kind of immersion breaking. They kind of annoy the hell out of me that they're there. I wish they had done skill points in a completely different way. However, it's what we have. So you get the skill points, and at the end of each stage you can spend skill points on upgrading your skills, which are these little skill sets. It's your skill sets are limited to 3 skills at once, and they're just basically flat upgrades. They're actually really boring. For instance, there's one that studies your aim, there's one that studies your recoil, so it makes recoil less significant. There's infinite ammo ones, there's ones that increase the damage of specific weapons against specific enemy types. So it's all in all a really boring affair, and they took out a really interesting weapon customization system to put in this really droll skill upgrade system. I'm really disappointed in that. I kind of wish they had done things differently, but the Resident Evil series has kind of gone downhill in the past couple of years, and that's also very, very, very evident in the kind of whole approach that they're taking to the games. They are really not scary anymore, and the company has kind of acknowledged that lately. I believe there was a comment from the CEO of Capcom or the creative director or something like that, and they realized that Resident Evil needs to really return to its roots, and they kind of hinted that there might be a reboot in the future. I'm not too sure about that, don't quote me on that, but I do remember something like that. Now, it also is very apparent in the aesthetics. The aesthetics are actually extremely dull. I'm gonna bring up a few examples of it right here, but it's like they made I don't know, they look like cardboard cutouts. They are horrible. Look at these textures. They are, I swear they didn't even try to make some of these stages look decent. There are some really good looking areas, and there are some really shitty looking areas. And if you look at the character models, these character models are really excellent, but you can stand next to this, I don't know, like 1995, not 1995, but early PlayStation 2, late PlayStation 1 era backdrop that just looks rancid. It's, you know, there's a window that's not even actually a window. It's just pasted on there. It's this dull, flat cardboard texture. What the hell were they thinking when they put these in? Capcom is a really, really good developer. I would have expected a whole lot better from them on this particular aspect. I think like the entire budget went into rendering Leon's hair or something, because he has really gorgeous hair for some godforsaken reason. Anyway, so the aesthetics are really, really dull and really immersion breaking. I guess the final thing I should talk about are the bosses. Now, the bosses have returned in full force in Resident Evil 6. All of them are really cool, except for one, which is basically Visage from Resident Evil 1. They kind of took that entire boss and just put him in Resident Evil 6. Except for the fact now he's invisible, so it's just another giant snake. But yeah, the bosses are really cool this time around. You got another El Gigante, but there are some really interesting things in there. You have your classic giant zombie creation, a BOW that you need to take down, which have really cool aesthetic designs. All in all, if you like the previous two games, you'll probably like this one. That said, it's definitely taking some turns that I'm really concerned about, but Capcom has already kind of acknowledged that, and they're supposedly working to an answer to bring back the old Resident Evil that we all know and love. Personally, I would not recommend you guys buy this until it comes down in price. Maybe $30, maybe $20. Either way, the current prices are listed below. I do not have the image macro for you that I had previously, but I will have that going onward. I do recommend the game. I just do not recommend a $60 purchase for this, because I do not feel that it is worth $60, especially considering the game came out in October. Come on, it's been months since it came out, and you expect me to pay $60? Are you serious? Are you serious? The only thing that you offered for free is a modification to Ada Wong's campaign, which allows you to play it with a friend. It gives you this little BS faceless soldier called Agent, and I don't think he even has any lines. It's whatever. They could have definitely done that better as well. So yeah, wait until the price drops quite a bit. I would not suggest you buy this game at $60, but that's just personal preference. If you really do love the Resident Evil series, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. But for now, this has been Lyiat with the Cyan Firefly, murdering the BOWs of Resident Evil 6 and facing Neo Umbrella. I shall see you all next time. See you later, Fireflies.